when we reached out to Gerald's brother, Milton Swift, he had this to say: "Please don't put out too much information about my brother on the news." Other news, jokes
Well,
like this
at
are
least I've
usually
seen out here around fall
It
when it's
is,
not as hot.
But this one happens to be fading out.
What the hell am I saying? I'm gonna kill Gerald! As soon as I can get back. What should I do in the meantime? Oh yeah, I have a review series. Maybe I can change things up by reviewing more than one thing. But what should I review? I'll just go with whatever the title of the video is. Back sometime in the mid-2000s, Midway decided to release some of their arcade games for the Game Boy Advance. As far as I know of, there were about 4 of these altogether, with 2 games per cartridge. Why they decided to only put 2 per cartridge, I don't really know. You would think maybe it's due to limitations, but then later on they decided to put 2 of them together and have 4 games in one, so I don't really get the point. Although it is possible they may have released 2 cartridges with this, but I'm not really sure. Maybe the logic is, hey, you like this game, you're buying it for this specific game? Well here, have a bonus game with it. Or maybe you happen to like both, in which case you're really happy with just this one cartridge. Or you like neither, in which case I would kinda wonder why you bought it in the first place. Pretty intense music, and actually pretty unfitting for the games we're starting out with. It's Gauntlet and Rampart. Neither of these have that kind of music. First up, Gauntlet, because it was the top one, so we'll just start there.
Welcome, Valkyrie. Breaker, 100 points.
The voice work's not too bad for this game, on the Game Boy Advance. I've never actually played this game in the arcades before. In fact, I've never really played any of these games in the arcade before. But I have played these on the collections on consoles, like, you know, Midway Arcade Treasures or something. So, I'll be comparing it to those, and comparing this one, it's not too bad. It's pretty close. It's a decent little game for on the go. Next up, we have Rampart. Did you guys see that explosion? So I'm not exactly the biggest fan of tower defense or strategy games, but if you do like those types of games, this one might be a decent on-the-go game. This sounds fine, the controls are generally good, and I haven't noticed any bugs. Although whenever you're trying to repair your wall, it can be a bit small looking on the Game Boy Advance, so you might have to look closer at your screen. Overall, a decent little pack of 2 games. Up next, we have Marble Bandits and Klax, and you know, I'm not really sure why I didn't do this for the Gauntlet and Rampart box art. Yeah, what are you gonna do? What? No wild and crazy unfitting music this time around? This must have been released at a different time because the menu's a bit different. Can't wait to play this one. Marble Madness is my favorite out of all of these. Let's see how it plays. Okay, so visually you may not be able to see why I'm daytime dramaing, but let's just say that the controls are kinda messed up. Going side to side, you're Sonic, but whenever you're going up and down, you're in Sonic Labyrinth. This kind of ruined the experience for me, which is sad because everything else looks pretty good and the sound's decent enough. Of course, my favorite game out of all this is the one that's kinda butchered. Now I'm kind of afraid to see what Klax is like on here. Well, Klax seems to be working fine. Good visuals, decent sound, and, you know, good controls. I have no clue what the hell happened to Marble Madness, but Klax seems to be pretty good, and it seems like a decent on-the-go game. So, if you were planning on getting this, I would only recommend getting it for Klax. Up next, we have Paperboy and Rampage. Looks like we have another ramp game. Only this time, instead of being about the art, this one's about the age. Wait, now that I say that joke out loud, it sounds really retarded. As you can tell, this one's set up a little bit more like Marble Madness and Klax. If you see me sucking at the game, that's normal, so it seems like the game is working pretty well. I've never really been a big fan of Paperboy, I just couldn't get into it, but if you like it, well, this seems like a pretty decent on-the-go experience. They did a decent job at this game. Way to go. Now let's check out Rampage. Well, she seems pretty thrilled to be. Hey, I was doing a joke there.
And it was delicious.
Well, 6th first, same as the 1st, and 2nd. Not 3rd, but 4th and 5th as well. This is a decent game on the go. A decent port. This is also a good game for those kids who like those giant monsters that destroy buildings and eat people. Although the latter fact's a bit strange considering the giant monsters are people. Not much more to say. It's a pretty solid port. And lastly, we have Spy Hunter and Super Sprint. Well, I guess we're back to having a unique music for the menu. And a unique menu. Alright, time to get this Spy Hunter started. Let's go! Well, other than the physics being a little bit weird feeling, it's an okay port, I guess. It's a decent little car game for if you want to use a car but don't really want to race. Good for on the go blasting the shit out of everyone. Although one thing I'm trying to figure out is that this one is still E-rated, while the 2002 Spy Hunter game, which is not that much different in terms of the level of violence, gets a T rating. It's, life can be a little confusing sometimes, kids. But just in case you did want to play a racing game, we have Super Sprint. You could do better than this. I'm not saying the game itself is bad, in the arcade or on console, but here on the already tiny Game Boy Advance screen, it's gonna be a little hard to see these already tiny cars. Not to dump all over this game too much in case it's your favorite game, but in my opinion, we have better racing games these days, including on the Game Boy Advance. I mean, for the most part it works fine enough, but there's better games out there. Well, for the time, and hopefully at the right price, these were decent little packs, but you can do a little bit better these days. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're able to see this video, then that means I must get signal out here, and I'm able to upload my videos. Also, if you see this video, please send help! Get me and my property back to dry land! I'm going insane here! But until then, don't forget to like this video if you like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and remember, this is Danny Tree Frog with Danny Tree Frog Reviews.